Well hey, we finally got a new Star Fox game. Kind of, it's another remake of 64. But honestly, I'm still excited, although I was a little taken aback by the art style changes. Oh dear god, Cat, what have they done to you?
It looks like grandma, the fucking thing!
All jokes aside, this renewed excitement got me thinking about a project I've wanted to try for a while. Imagine a paper craft made out of a soda box and then painted like a regular model. For this project, I decided the original Super Nintendo Arwing would be the perfect candidate. I mean, look at it, it's got like 4 polygons. How hard could it be?
Good luck.
So apart from the model itself, I also like the idea of it being supported by some kind of angular base that you could then separate using magnets. Before we could get to work though, we needed a template to follow. I thought this would be a fairly common papercraft project, but I could only find this one template, and I have no idea who made it. All I could find was this re-upload on DeviantArt. Since I couldn't print the design directly onto the soda box, I had to measure and trace every line by hand. This wasn't too bad, it's easy enough to measure something digitally and then draw those measurements, but it was time-consuming and I definitely struggled with some of the angles. With that done, all I had to do was cut these pieces out, and we were ready for assembly. This is where we find out whether the template actually works, and the answer is kind of. Take a look at this back section. It looks like it overlaps perfectly, so I happily glued it in place. But when compared to the 3D model, you'll notice mine is actually too low. Unfortunately, I realized this way too late and had to cut and redo that section. Here you can see me scoring the red side of the soda box. I had to do this a lot because they used some kind of smooth coating on the outside. I don't know if it's plastic or a varnish or something, but it is impossible to glue to that unless you score it. Now that all the individual pieces are glued together, it's time to mount them in their final positions. And I've already made a pretty big mistake. Here's what we're looking at. I glued these wings pointing completely straight back. That is not how they're supposed to go. They're supposed to be mounted like this, angled outward and parallel with the glue tabs, not with the main body. I had already glued on the G diffusers before I realized, so it was too late to fix it, but thankfully this doesn't look too bad. And once that final piece was in place, I was kind of surprised, like, wow, that's an Arwing. I'm not really sure what I expected, but yeah, our efforts paid off. I still needed to attach the magnet though, and for that I actually imported the model into Blender to calculate the center of mass, which is about there. We just stick that on there with way too much glue, and we are good to go. Now, I have a confession to make. At this point I started working on the base, and I recorded a lot of footage for this. Cutting the shapes out, gluing them together, testing out the magnets for the first time, making a papier-mâché base out of cornstarch. But I'm kinda skipping over all of this because, oh, this is easily the worst base I have ever made. It's just so bad. It looks like it was made out of toilet paper, because it kinda was. Anyway, I had to find some way to rescue this, and I didn't really want to deal with that right away, so we'll come back to this. Instead, we'll start painting the Arwing. We begin by giving everything a pretty thick coating of Mod Podge. A few reasons for this: it allows me to fill in some of the gaps, it soaks into the paperboard and makes it really solid, and it is a bit tacky after drying, so it acts as a perfect primer for our white base coat. Now, I could just follow the template and paint the whole thing gray and blue, but you know me, I gotta overcomplicate things. So instead, I'm going to replicate the shading of the in-game model. That means sourcing the colors from a screenshot, which actually looks more green than I expected, and of course I have to mix each of those colors by hand. This could go very badly, but let's just go for it. You may have noticed this game uses dithered shading, especially underneath the Arwing with that checkerboard pattern. To replicate this, I drew some reference marker lines, then just filled the pattern all the way down. Again, nothing too difficult, just time-consuming. With that though, the Arwing is basically done. I just had to take it outside to spray some layers of clear coat. At one point, a squirrel came to say hello. Okay, it's time to get back to the base. The first thing I tried was a crackle paint method I heard from Adam Savage.
It's 2 coats, 3 minutes apart, and then bake at 125 or 150 for about an hour.
But as you can see, this didn't really work, presumably because he painted metal in that video and this is not metal. So I decided to take a different approach to the base, maybe something like moon craters. So I busted out my clay, a bit of glue, and just got to sculpting. After sticking that back into the oven, I could finally start painting. This base coat is a mix of paint and a bit of cornstarch. This thickens it up just enough to act as a light texture paste. Funny story, I tried mixing some coarse salt into the paint for texture, but it dissolved, so I basically just made salty paint. Now for the actual paint layer, I started by loosely scraping on some gray. Then I dry brushed progressively lighter shades of gray until I reached white. The messier this looks, the better. Now I'm going over everything with a black wash. This darkens everything while also settling into the little grooves and bumps across the model. What we end up with is this really grungy and rocky looking surface. Perfect. Now we just need to head back outside, pray that it doesn't rain, and give the base a few layers of clear coat. After sticking on some rubber feet, signing and dating, and peeling off the covers on the magnets, we are finally done. I would make some remark about how this all took longer than expected, but that's become something of a running joke in the craft world.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say it. Anyway.
But yeah, this project was definitely a pain. I do not recommend it. The results speak for themselves though. This is seriously awesome. I am really proud of this. And with that, thank you very much for watching. If you liked this video, remember to share it with someone else who might enjoy it. That algorithm ain't what it used to be. Anyway, that's it from me. See you next time, and have a good day.